Um, Calling to order the October 22nd meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. As a preliminary matter, we need to kind of go through the description of the fact that we're running on Zoom. So we'll start with confirming that all members and persons anticipated to be on the agenda are present and can hear me. So when I call your name, please unmute yourself and acknowledge that you can hear us. We'll start. I'm just going to go across the top from what I'm seeing. Do the members first. Bill Yeomans.
Here.
Kay Reed.
Yes, here.
Marianne DeRosiers.
Here.
Brian Waller.
Here.
Steve.
Seat here.
Carl.
Algia.
So Bob Berger.
Bob Berger's here.
Dan Hill.
Here.
Jeff Walsh.
Jeff Walsh is here.
Okay, and then for the applicant side, well, Jeff Engler, can you hear us?
Yes.
We're going on to Steve O'Connell.
Here.
John Winslow.
Here.
Mujib Ahmed.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so that's the team for Fisherville, I believe. But I guess we probably have nobody on for the other hearing we have, or the other item. We'll deal with that when we get to it. So
Steve O'Connell's here for both, Bill. He's also the engineer for Elm Rock.
Okay, all right, perfect.
And Berger's here for discussing Elm Rock too.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Okay,
Bill, can I say
who's that?
This is Steve O'Connell. The traffic engineer for Fisherville is trying to get in. He's listed as an attendee and not a panelist, so he's not showing up. So I don't know if there's something Katrina can do.
Hold on.
Dan Dumas.
All right. What's their email address, and I'll send them my link.
You ready? I'll give it to you.
Yep.
D again, UMAIS at mdmtrans.com.
Okay. I'll forward my link
Okay,
right
great.
now.
I guess forwarding the link that you gave me to him didn't work.
I think we can proceed at least with the
Yep.
the reading of the rules or whatever it is I'm here. So this open meeting of the Grafton Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted on the town's website at www.grafton-ma.gov, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment for the public hearing portion only. For this meeting, the Grafton Zoning Board of Appeals is convening by video conference via Zoom and by TV, with dial-in access as posted on the town's website, identifying how you may join. Please note this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other people may be able to see you and that you should take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording of this meeting and preserved forever. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. We're about to turn to our first item on the agenda, but before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will allow ZBA members to comment. For items with public comment, after the members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment either through Zoom or through the phone if anyone's on the phone. For public comment, to request acknowledgement to speak, please use the chat feature in Zoom. To request to speak, the meeting administrator will enable you to speak when it's your turn. For those on the phone, AV staff will coordinate with the meeting administrator to allow you to speak. Okay, finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. All right, now that that's out of the way. First order of business will be case number 754, Fisherville Terrace, an MPC. This is a continuation, actually, of case 754. Fisherville Terrace desires a change from 72 units to 100 units. At this point, I think I'd probably be best to, one item of business ahead of time. Mary Ann, you missed the last meeting, but I believe you have viewed the recording, and I think you would need to sign I want to call it the mulligan, but whatever that document is.
Yeah, I got it about half hour ago, so I'll get that to Katrina tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Great. So with that in mind, I'll turn it over to the applicant for Fishville. Is that you, Jeff, or?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. I'm prepared to speak. I appreciate it. Thank you to members of the board. Jeff Engler from SEV representing Fisherville Terrace LLC. As you all are aware, we appeared before the board about a month ago, give or take, and introduced our request for a major modification, which was to expand from 72 units to 100 units. Most of the remainder of the plan is unchanged, as we discussed at length at the first hearing. And at the conclusion of the public hearing, we were given some homework assignments of some materials to submit to the board. Since the last public hearing, we have submitted a unit matrix, which provides an overview of the types and styles of houses proposed. We submitted a development budget, both of the existing modification, the 100-unit plan as currently pending in comparison to the approved 72-unit plan. We also submitted a full site plan showing the designation of the affordable units, which I would think the board hopefully will see are equally distributed throughout the entirety of the plan. And then the most time and effort intensive item was an update of a traffic study, which really evolved from just an update to almost having to do the entirety of the traffic study again, which was submitted, I believe, on Friday of last week. So those were our homework assignments. They've all been submitted for the record. We're prepared to talk about any of those this evening. I think they're all pretty much confirmed some of the assertions that we made at the first hearing relative to our needing the 100 units from a financial standpoint to make this project economically viable. It demonstrates that the affordable units are spread equally throughout the development, and it also confirms that the addition of the 28 units has no material impact on vehicle trips, sightline visibility, or any safety elements associated with the project. So with that said, Mr. Chairman, I turn it back to you to see if there's any of the submittals the board would like to discuss in greater detail.
I was just a little surprised by this updated site plan, but I guess that was at the end of the unit data, just a small version. Is that the site plan you're talking about?
I'm not sure what you mean by small version. Steve can comment on the plan that was submitted, but I think if you expand it beyond an 8.5, 11 version, you can see in shaded gray all the various affordable units marked
Yeah.
in the plan.
No, that's it. I just wanted to make sure I was on the same page. That's
Yeah, if you looked at it in 8.5 by 11, everything is grayed out. You won't be able to see anything. So I recognize that myself, and then printed it at 11 by 17, and it shows up quite clearly.
And they also have a letter A that designates affordable.
yeah. Okay, got it. All right. Any questions or comments from the board? We did all receive this information, or I hope everyone received this information ahead of time. Any questions or comments from the board at this point?
So Chair, I have a couple.
Quiet.
I have a couple comments.
Go ahead, please.
So I just on the pro forma, Jeff, that you provided, the hard cost component appears to be a summary of all the hard costs, but you didn't break down all the individual elements. And I just wondering if you have that information that you can share with us. It strikes me as that the main reason why this project is uneconomic at 72 units is the site costs. And when I say site costs, I'm talking about the site prep costs, the building of the road, that because we're on a steep hill here with unfavorable soil conditions. So I think it would be useful for us to have that information. I'm assuming you have that, and it just got blacked out.
Wait, you're talking about the site costs there, not the actual unit costs?
Right, yeah, just the site prep costs of the construction of the road and utilities, earthwork.
Yeah, we have some, I mean, if you want it broken up, we can do that. But I mean, I feel like, I mean, I think you're correct in saying the reason 100 units work and 72 units doesn't is because there's fixed costs, whether we're doing, 10 units or 100 units. So we need to amortize those costs over a larger number of units. We can provide the backup of that 4.7 if it pleases the board, but that's a real number at this point in time.
Yeah, I don't doubt it's a real number. It's just, we have to do our due diligence. And so it's customary to have the backup for that. So it's not even backup. I'm just looking for the numbers, the breakdown. You just provided one number for for all the site, all the hard costs. So it'd be good to have that broken down by category at least.
And what's your second question?
On the traffic study, I took a quick look at that this afternoon, and I guess this is more just to the traffic engineer who's on the Zoom. Under site distances, which I think is probably the only issue I think might be present here. I don't see the site triangles in the report. I see the calculations. I see the actual conclusions. The traffic engineer concluded that this project has adequate stopping site distance and intersection site distance. The stopping site distance, I'm not surprised at, because Main Street's a relatively straight road in this location. The intersection site distance, however, I think we'd like to see the backup for that. And in the back would just be the site triangles that you use to calculate the actual legs that provide what you say is the adequate site distance. So, and the reason I raise that here is that with development sites that have sort of a narrow entrance, that often results in deficiencies with intersection site distance because you don't control a lot of the frontage on Main Street. So again, this is another check the box thing. It's a due diligence issue, and for the zoning board, I feel it's important that we at least have the site triangles that back up those distances.
So this is Dan Dumas with MDM. I can field that one for you guys. So the intersection site distance that you're talking about would be the vehicle stopped at the Main Street looking left or right onto the road. So the right of way of the road is set at the back of the sidewalks, and there's a grass strip. So that whole area is wide open. So the site visibility is nice and clear, and that will be maintained when we put the driveway in. But the sightline triangles that you're talking about can be added to the final site plan set if that wants to be like a condition. I don't see that as being a problem to add those in. We can give those to Stephen and his team to add those on.
I wasn't referring to that being a condition on the permit. I was talking about having that supplied to us now while this hearing is open, so that we can have the backup to check it, to make sure that we agree with the calculation. This is again, a due diligence thing.
So to move things along, has Graves reviewed the sight lines so they can confirm what we measured in the field? The peer reviewer?
So I was going to get to them in a minute, but at this point, Jeff, I mean, have you had a chance to review this? I know we haven't received anything in writing from you.
For the record, this is Jeff Walsh with Graves Engineering consultant for the Zoning Board of Appeals. Yes, Mr. Chairman, I did review it this afternoon. I did not issue a letter, but I went through the narrative, the data. Compared the data back to the 2010 amendment done by MDM, and I also compared the data back to the 2008 report by Abend Associates. With respect to site distances, we certainly evaluated those during the public hearing for the comprehensive permit a number of years ago. Nothing has changed as far as building issues out there. Vegetation might have grown, and the updated traffic report that I looked at did talk to trimming back vegetation and so forth. Based upon the data presented in this report, it certainly backs up what we found back in 2010, that there's adequate site distances at the intersection. But nevertheless, it could be memorialized if that's the desire of the board. I went through the data as far as like trip generation, existing traffic numbers. I compared those things back to the two earlier reports. Looking at the 2008 report, that traffic data was actually collected in 2007, and applying a growth factor, that comes up very favorably with the numbers presented in this 2020 report. Report from 2010, the existing traffic data was a little bit lower. I don't know if that's got to do with economic issues around there, but nevertheless, if we take the 2007 data and forecast it forward to 2020, those numbers agreed very favorably with the traffic counts conducted this month. I looked at the intersection analyses, and there were no major changes. There had been one intersection approach leg that went from a C condition to a D, but that's like about a 2-second delay. It just happens to go over the threshold from a level of service C to a level of service D. The analysis also looked at crash data, and they reported that one of the intersections was the crash rate per million vehicle trips was approaching the state average. I'm sorry, the District 3 average, which is this area. Basically almost at the District 3 average. The other intersections were below. So in short, I have no issues, Mr. Chairman, and I don't think it's necessary for the ZBA to bump this up to a traffic peer reviewer.
Thank you.
Jeff, do you have the site triangles?
No, site triangles were not presented, Dan.
So
But-
why can't we get those? I don't understand what the pushback is.
We can get them. The data was presented. It's nothing more than a right triangle. They gave the data for the long leg, which is along the Main Street route, and they gave the information as far as how far back the driver was sitting. I did not go revisit the site to look at site distances like I did back in 2010. Again, with no no major activity down in the area. I didn't feel the need to go back and look at it. But the numbers are there, Dan, we just don't have a picture. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right. The reason I raise it is that we don't know where the leg height is. If the leg crosses over private property, then it's not an adequate site distance or site leg. And so I think having the triangle shows us where that line is drawn. And if the line is drawn within the subject property and or the right of way, then it's fine. But that also informs where the clearing has to happen. So the traffic report says that there has to be some selective clearing to provide the site distance. So we should know where that clearing is going to take place. If it's going to take place in the right of way of Main Street, then whose job is that going to be? We should just know what the expectations are. If the clearing has to happen on private property, then that raises another issue. So that's why I'm raising the question.
So to clarify for you, the road, Main Street has a shoulder on it. So you're going to have the shoulder of the road. Then you have about a 5-foot green strip and then a 5.5-foot sidewalk. So any sight lines is going to be 100% within the right of way of the road. And it's in the same exact location as the permitted 72 unit development. There's no change in the location.
Okay, so if you can provide the site triangles, that'd be great. And then the other question I had was on the speed study. Jeff, you mentioned that this data was collected last month. Is that right?
I believe it was this month, October 2020.
Okay, I didn't see that on the traffic report. Is that on the traffic report, the date of the collection?
It is, and the data is included in the attachments.
Okay,
We
great.
collected
Thank
the
you.
data over a 24-hour period, so it includes speed data for approximately 6,000 data points.
And what day was that collected? Do you happen to know?
I can look at the exact day. I'll look.
I think it was October 1st, I recall.
I believe that is correct, but I'll verify that right now.
Is it a weekday?
Yeah, October 1st.
Yeah, it would have been a Tuesday through a Thursday.
Okay.
And Dan, what they did with the traffic counts, being traffic counts are a little low right now, of course. When they did their intersection analysis, they added a percentage onto that to account for the lower traffic counts that are being seen now.
That's correct. So we did adjustment factors for the COVID volumes being down. We used a permanent count station located on 146 to the west of the project. That showed that the weekday morning is about 23% below normal, with people basically working on the hybrid school models, and the afternoon is about 17% low. So we adjusted those back up, and the numbers looked pretty reasonable compared to the historical volumes we had out there and the kind of the area growth as well.
Where are the speed tubes placed?
Speed tubes are placed on, we used a radar device on the utility pole adjacent to where the driveway is going to go, the closest we could get.
So it was in the location of the driveway or thereabouts?
Correct, yep. And it was done on Thursday, October 1st. We noticed an average speed 33 miles an hour eastbound, 32 westbound, and the 85th percentile speeds were a little higher, 37 eastbound to straightaway, and then a little slower, 34 miles an hour in the westbound direction. And it's posted for 30 miles an hour, I believe.
And your report also stated a commitment to build a crosswalk across Main Street after the Mass DOT completes the repaving project out there in the spring. Is that correct?
I'm not sure the timeline of building it, but it would complement the project by Mass DOT that's going to be spring or summer of next year. It'll
Okay,
basically,
and that's okay to put on as a condition of approval? You're okay with that kind of condition, that crosswalk be constructed, say, prior to, occupancy of the project?
I'll defer to the
Yes,
project team, but I believe so.
yeah, Dan, yes.
Yes.
As a condition to the first CO, yes.
Okay, great. That's all I had, Bill.
As a condition prior to the first CO, is that what I just heard?
Yes.
And does that Does that make sense? I mean, considering there isn't necessarily control over when Mass DOT is going to be doing the work on Main Street?
I think according to our technical experts, they're pretty comfortable that the work is going to be done in spring and summer of 2021, and we're not going to be ready with the CO in that time period. So if the time does not work out, we'll come back for a minor modification, but I think we're comfortable with it being tied to CO because I think we're comfortable that the DOT work is going to occur, prior to us being ready for that.
Yeah, not that I don't enjoy your presence. I was just trying to avoid that. Come back for a minor modification, but
I don't think it'll be necessary.
You guys want to do? Yeah, okay. Then we'll do it that way. All right. Other comments or questions from the board? Any thoughts, Seth?
This is not related to traffic, but this is related to the thing that I don't understand in the map. I'm looking at C 5.2, and I see proposed DI1, DI2, DI3, DI4. Can someone explain what that is?
I need to get caught up to where you look. So what are you looking at?
I'm looking at grading and drainage plan, sheet 2 of 3, sheet number CS and Charlie 5.2.
Mr. Chairman, I can explain. A DI is a drop inlet. That's just a certain type of catch basin that handles stormwater runoff. Typically used in the grass area.
So there are so many of them. It's all to catch the water, rainwater. Is my understanding right?
Yep, correct.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts or comments from the board? Okay. I don't see anyone in chat. Is there any, Katrina, do we have any questions from the public or anyone from the public even participating at this point? Q&A, there's nothing.
Nope, there's nobody participating and nobody's sent anything in via me, so.
Seth has another question.
Go ahead, Steve.
On the same sheet, 2 of 3, to the left, I see BVW buffer zone. I don't know the abbreviation of BVW. Can someone tell me?
Yep, I've got that through the chair.
You got it, Steve.
BVW stands for Bordering Vegetated Wetland. That is a wetland resource area designation by the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. At this point, we need to get some written comments back from Graves. Dan's requested some backup information on the pro forma. Other than that, I think we have what we need. I'm not hearing a lot from the board, so I'll go ahead and share my position at this point. This project's been around for at least 10 years. No one's built it, and I think that is because it's not economic at 72 units or whatever, 72 units. We also had a different developer come in and talk to the board in open meeting about possibly buying this project. He was talking 150 units or more. I think it's very clear that if this project's going to get built, it needs to be built at more than 72 units. I'm perfectly okay with the 100 that's proposed. I see no reason to not, approve this notice of project change. That's my opinion. I think at this point, we probably, if the board's in agreement, we could probably head towards asking, Dan to draft a decision that may include additional conditions if there are problems with the sight lines or whatever that we've asked for and that information. But, I think we're at that point with this. Thoughts from the board? Yes, Mr. Yeomans.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only question I had was with runoff impervious surfaces, and at the last meeting, Jeff Walsh, Graves Engineering, calmed those concerns that I had. And I think it was brought up before that while it's a great increase in number of units, it's also a good increase in the number of affordables. And as I think Kyle mentioned that the last meeting, so I'm in agreement with your point of view, Mr. Chair, that, given the information that's been brought up tonight by our council, and as long as they provide the adequate backup, I see no reason to not approve this project going forward with 100 units.
Other comments from the board? Well, hearing none, I'm going to assume that we're generally in agreement. So I think probably the way to proceed is because we do need to get written feedback from Graves, and Dan has requested a little bit more information. So I think we leave the hearing open, but perhaps direct Dan to help us just craft a decision, and it may be very simple, quite frankly. But I'd like Dan to draft that so we do it correctly. And, perhaps when we get back together, whenever we continue this to, we take what little bit of additional information is expected and then close it and take action if it's appropriate at that point. Does that sound reasonable? Yes, sir.
Can I ask one question? I think it's reasonable. We'll provide the backup to the site work. And if Dan could provide the draft, as Dan knows, the draft and all the conditions from the previous permit still apply. So any condition should only apply to the specific elements of the changes we're asking for. It's not a reopening of let's start, conditioning things that we haven't talked about. And I know Mr. Hill is aware of that. But, time is money to my client. We need to get started because we have to reconcile some of our site work or coordinate, should I say, with the DOT. So is it possible we could do this in 2 weeks and not wait, another month and wrap this up? Because we can get the date, the detail that you requested, we can get you that, and we'll get you a site triangle, we'll get you the backup, we can get you that, in 24 hours.
Chairman,
Do we have something else? Well, hang on. So go ahead, Dan.
I was going to say the timing on my end, I'm probably not going to be able to start working on this until Thursday or Friday of next week. I've got a trial starting on Monday in the vineyard, so I'm pretty much out of commission until then. The other.
Yeah, this is an hour of work. I mean, you've done a million of these. What is to write up on?
Mr. Engler, if it's going to take a couple extra weeks, it'll take a couple extra weeks, right? We could easily have gone into a long discussion about reducing the number of units. We're not. So let's focus on just trying to get this done. If Dan needs a couple extra weeks, he needs a couple extra weeks.
The other piece of evidence I think we need is the final road layout plan from MassDOT for Main Street. That hasn't come up tonight, but Jeff, do you have that plan? Do we know where the pavement's going to be, where the sidewalks are going to be, and so forth? I feel like that's probably pretty important to understand where that's all going to be located, so that we can ensure that the project driveway is going to be able to tie into that as shown on their site plans.
I don't have any of that information, Dan. I'm completely out of the loop on that project.
Okay.
I can tell you that project is not at 100% design yet, and that information is, only available probably, I think maybe the 50% design development plans have been issued.
Okay. Do you have them?
Yes. Yep. We can provide those.
Okay, yeah, if you could send those by email to Katrina and maybe copy me on that and Jeff. Because I think that's another thing that I think we should have Jeff look at, just to make sure there's nothing funny in there that we didn't think of. You know, I can't imagine anything, but just to make sure there's nothing in there that's inconsistent with what you're trying to do with your project.
Yep, I can tell you, you'll see for yourself, but I can tell you that there are no changes to the roadway that will affect it. There's no widening, there's no narrowing. It's more or less a reconstruction in kind.
Okay, great.
Some
And
utility.
Jeff, were there any outstanding issues?
Not on my end, no.
Mr. Yeomans.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding the work with Mass Highway doing the Main Street, that corridor, my concern is that that is really tightly coordinated with Mass Highway. I don't think we can have a mini version of what has gone on at Worcester Street with the installation of the new water mains. While this is, a minor connection compared to that, I just want to make sure that that's really tightly looked at and managed. So we're not laying down, the state's coming in and doing that whole project, and then we're opening up the road again. How is that going to take place?
Well, okay, so first of all, it's not a minor connection, right? There's a pipe that's being run down some hundreds of feet down Main Street. So it's a fairly significant amount of work in Main Street. And let's just take, for example, let's say Mass DOT says, we don't have money to do this. We're not going to do it for 5 years. Then the applicant's going to open up Main Street and run the pipe down where he's got to run it down. He's going to close it up. He's going to do what he needs to do per our rules and regulations, or I'm pretty sure it's our rules that would govern it. Likewise, the applicant perhaps doesn't have money for a year, and he ends up behind Mass DOT in the project, and he's got to open up the road, and he's got to close it back up edge to edge, just as any other new road that gets opened up. So, I think it's to the applicant's advantage to make sure that he coordinates as close as possible, and I think he's going to try and do that. But I think that's kind of out of our hands. That we have requirements in the permit that say he needs to put drainage from his project down Main Street to some point that runs behind South Grafton Elementary School. How he does that, I don't think is too much in our purview. And when I say how, I mean with respect to whether he coordinates with Mass DOT or he does it before or he does it after. I mean,
Okay.
I don't think that's too much in our purview.
Thank you.
Yep. So Katrina, what do we have on? Why do I think we have something on the 5th of November?
We have the combined ZBA planning board meeting on Monday, November 9th.
Okay, that's the one we have in the hopper. All right.
Yeah, but that's on a Monday night.
Yep. But I think we might be looking at the 12th, Dan. Does that seem reasonable for you?
Yeah, that's fine. I just can't promise how. I'm gonna work on this on probably the 30th or the 2nd or 3rd. So I should have it done by, the 4th or 5th. So that's a week.
But I said the 12th.
Yeah, I'm saying I'll have it done in a week before the meeting. So that should give everybody enough time to review it and
Okay.
offer comments.
All right. So let's shoot for the 12th to continue this. Before we actually do a motion to continue, I just want to double check, make sure there's nobody joining us. I don't see anything. All right. Cease, you want to speak?
One last question on the drainage. Proposed D1, D2, D3, D4. I feel like it's on the town line, Grafton Sutton town line. Should there be any setback on those pipes? Should it be, 6 feet apart from the town line. Is there any restrictions?
No.
I'll take that, Mr. Chairman. I don't see any restrictions. It's well on the applicant's property. The applicant has some property that extends into Sutton. So I didn't see any issue with the location of the drop inlets, seeing they're well within the limits of the property.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, who's that?
Steve O'Connell.
Yes, Steve.
Wanted to say for the record that you should have also received a letter from the South Grafton Water District that they can supply the 100 units for the project with their current infrastructure.
Yes, we did, and that is part of the record. Yep, thank you. So now you, I think that's it for input that we received since last meeting. Okay. So at this point, I guess I'd entertain a motion to continue case number 754 to November 12th at 7 p.m. Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
So motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. So we'll start with Mr. Did we lose Mr. Yeomans?
No, he's there. For some reason, we
Yeah, his video's
can't.
not on.
Here, no, I hit the,
I just can't see him.
there I am. I hit the wrong
Mr.
button.
Yeomans, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Waller,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. DeRosiers.
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. So we are continued to the 12th at 7 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Next order of business is an NPC for Wheel Rock Estates. So, Steve, is there anyone else? Are you by yourself for this, or?
Yeah, just me representing Eastland.
All right. Trying to find my documents on this one.
Mr. Chairman, this is Jeff Walsh. You don't need me for this, do you?
Well, that's a really good question.
I can stick around if you like.
Yeah, why don't you stick around, Jeff?
Okay. Be glad to.
So, Steve, why don't you tell us what's going on here?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of the applicant and developer, my name is Steve O'Connell from Turning Point Engineering. So as I'll just summarize my letter that I submitted with this request. So during the review of building permit applications for lots that require access via a common driveway, building inspector, Mr. Berger, identified that the ZBA did not specifically grant necessary waivers, and they weren't specifically requested for the setback required for a drive, essentially from driveway to property line. So the required buffer yard therefore was not met, which is section 3.3.3.4 of the Grafton zoning bylaws. So in an effort to, keep the project moving, and this meeting already being on the schedule, we quickly prepared a plan and this request. We feel as though this request is de minimis, since all of the driveways shown and to be constructed are virtually the same as shown on the approved comprehensive permit plan that was approved by the ZBA. So I feel as though it's more of a housekeeping item, and happy to answer any questions. The plan I provided hopefully clearly illustrates the driveways and the common driveways on the lots that are subject to this request. And I know Mr. Berger is here, and if he needs to provide clarification, he may want to do so, but I think it's a straightforward issue, and the plan really should speak for itself. And if no one has that, I'm prepared to share my screen if I have permission to do so, but I'll yield the floor, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's not the only thing that's in the on the website right now is just your letter. There's no diagram, and I was going to ask if there is a diagram somewhere that we could view. So yeah, if Katrina can make you someone to present, that would be good. And I'd like to just put up a drawing so you can kind of illustrate what it is we're talking about here.
Be able to share, because I gave sharing to everybody.
Okay.
And if not, I thought I posted it. I will look and see.
Okay, so there, I will zoom in so you can see I shaded all of the driveways in like a gray, like a solid gray color, so you can just kind of see. And what I'll show you is there's a couple of examples here in the cul-de-sac. You can see I'll make that a hand. So the distance from these driveways to the property lines, in this case here we have 5 feet. On this side we have 13. The requirement is 10. And then as I move over here to common driveway number 2, this is a 30-foot wide strip of land that is part of lot 18. And just by the nature of the common driveway requirements, where the width has to be 15 and the buffer yard has to be 10 in a 30-foot strip, it just doesn't fit. So therefore, a waiver is technically required. So all of these lots that are accessed off of these two common drives, Common Drive 1 and Common Drive 2, in addition to those, you'll see here the driveway for lot 16 and the driveway for lot 15 and the driveway for lot 14 are all subject to this request as well. Lot 22 is fine. You can see that I have 10.9 feet from the driveway to the property line, but it's several others unfortunately just do not meet the requirement. And as I said at the beginning, all of the driveways shown on this plan are substantially the same as they were shown on the approved comprehensive permit plan. And I think it was more or less, an administrative oversight, really going back to the original request of waivers.
Yep. Mr. Berger, do you have anything to add to this?
No, he said exactly what needs to be said. They need, in order to build these driveways, they need that waiver so they can be within whatever you give them, or you just waive that. You did this before in High Point. You waived the entire complex. And I will just keep that in mind on our next 40B, because this is the second time we had to do this. So we'll put that on a little notepad, or I'll put that on my notepad when I review them when you ask for comments.
And I'll do the same, Bob.
Yeah, thank you.
So, I'm trying to figure out what exactly is the change here. It's actually not a change. It's just perhaps an acknowledgement that a waiver is needed.
Mr. Chair, I would think that you're just gonna, well, I think Dan's still here, but I think you would just waive our zoning bylaw 3334 to accommodate this subdivision. Can't you add a waiver in this comprehensive permit?
We've never done that I know of. But you said we did it for High Point, huh?
You did do it for High Point. We did it for the
Yeah,
retaining, we did it for the retaining walls and for the driveways.
Yeah, you can add another waiver.
All right. So the waiver is from, waiver was neither requested nor granted pursuant to section 3334, 10-foot vegetated buffer around the perimeter of lots.
And perhaps the waiver request and the waiver vote could be specific to the driveways and not taken as the entire perimeter of the lots, so that vegetated buffers that can be compliant with the plans will still be present at the rear of the lots.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Thank you, Jeff.
And we have no objection to that. And I was going to say the same, so thanks for saying that, Jeff.
I'm just making some notes here so we can try and have a motion that makes some sense. So Steve, that's the right drawing. Can you, I'm just trying to identify that drawing. It looks like it's sheet C10. Is there a date on it? Or how can I identify that drawing, assuming that's what we want to look at?
Sure, you could, a couple different things. You could call it a lot development plan, sheet C-1.0, dated October 6th, 2020.
Yep, I like that. C-1.0. And then what was that date again?
October 6th.
October 6th. Just out of curiosity, why aren't we looking at the approved plans for this?
Because those plans don't necessarily show the dimensions that I thought were critical for you to, maybe see the.
Okay, fair enough.
These plans actually show the actual houses that are being built on each lot.
Okay.
I believe.
All right. Do we have a date on the comprehensive permit? Not there. So the comprehensive permit is. And certificate of no appeal. Comprehensive permit. Got to be a date on it. Yeah. Oh, there it is. Signed and filed decision.
October 27th, 2017.
That doesn't sound right.
The date on the file.
Wow, I guess it is. Yeah. All right, it is. You're right. October 27th just didn't get filed until many months later. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to, through you, ask Steve to have Dave upload that document in the driveway permits so it will reflect where these driveways are going.
The plan?
Yeah, just upload that in all the driveway permits because I'd like to approve these if I can.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. I pulled up the comp permit, Mr. Chairman, if that helps. You got it, though.
Yeah, no, I've got it here. So I think what we have is a motion to grant an additional waiver to the comprehensive permit dated 27 October 2017 for 21 Wheeler Road and 106 Brigham Hill Road, Grafton, Mass. To waive the 10-foot vegetated buffer requirement around perimeter of lots as necessary to construct driveways as depicted in drawing lot development plan C-1.0 October 6, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? I mean, seems fairly straightforward. So again, on a roll call vote, Ms. DeRogers,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
Yes.
Mr. Waller,
Yes.
Chairman votes yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're done with that.
Great. And happy to report too that all of those houses all sold out. The whole project is sold out. So,
Yeah, I drove in there the other day. I saw that. Looks good in there.
Yep, it's been a real success. So thanks for all your help again.
And do we have buyers in place for the affordables? Do you know?
Yes. Yep. There's been a number. Well, all of them, and I believe at least 3 are affordables are occupied.
Excellent. Excellent. I understand that somebody who was waiting years for one up at High Point is in there now. So
That's right.
that's good as well. Excellent. Okay. Good news. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Mr.
All
Chair,
right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
before
Yes.
Mr. Hill leaves the meeting, I don't know where and this is another subdivision, Dan, I don't know where we left off with the cease and desist on my High Point. I need your
Seeing as
direction.
it's not on the agenda, that may be a conversation to have offline.
All right, Dan, can we have a conversation sometime next week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. We kind of left that open-ended, so let's
Yeah.
stop that.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I guess I don't want to, it wasn't on the agenda. We probably shouldn't get into it at all.
That's fine. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, good night, guys.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, Dan.
Yep.
Thanks, Jeff. Has Jeff already left? I guess Jeff left. All right.
Good night, all.
So I think if I can find the agenda. So under new business, we have vote to allow the town administrator or the ZBA secretary to sign department bills for the board. So this is something apparently our new town administrator or temporary town administrator has requested. And I know, Katrina, you sent me that language. I just don't know what I did with it.
You want me to send it to you again?
Nope, I got it.
Okay. So basically, I guess in other towns, you guys vote to allow someone else to sign the bills, whether it's the town administrator or myself. And you can vote to have either or do it. It's up to you guys. Now, I know Nancy, the Board of Health, does sign the bills for the Board of Health. But it's your call, whether you want me to do it or give it to the town administrator.
Yeah, it seems like, so what happens right now with bills? I mean, we used to sign bills during meetings.
I used to give them to you guys
Why don't
to
we do
sign. Because I was always told when I first started here, you guys would sign the bills. But remember that one year where like for 9 months, we didn't have a meeting, but I still had bills. So Tim or the assistant town administrator would sign them for me, and nobody ever said anything because technically Tim or the town administrator is my supervisor. And then when Carter came in, he was like, did the board ever vote to have the town administrator to sign? And I was like, not to my knowledge. I mean, I've been here 10 years and as far as I knew, no. So he said he would feel more comfortable if you as a board voted to either assign him or assign whoever is the secretary to be able to sign the bills on your behalf. Now, when we get back in person meetings, you guys can sign the bills. It's just waiting to get somebody to sign my bills, to get them processed, to get them into accounting by the time I need to get them in by. And there are times bills come in as I've already done things, so now I gotta wait till the next round to get them in. To get Carter or who's ever in to sign them for me.
Oops.
So I've just shared out what Carter, I guess, is asking us to do here. I still would have been much more comfortable if Carter had sent us a mail with this. And it's not that I don't trust you, Katrina, but
Bill, if you scroll
You know,
down, Bill, if you scroll down, that is the whole chain of emails with Carter. I attached everything to it when I forwarded it to you.
okay.
So it is in there. It's from Carter. I just forwarded it and
Yeah.
put in his wording so you could see it, but the whole chain is there with him.
Got it. No, it's right here in his mail. All right. So move to authorize the town administrator to sign the warrant for payment of bills from the accounts of the ZBA upon presentation of the same to him or her by the ZBA secretary.
And then in another email,
I mean, that's-
Carter, which I didn't forward you that email, I can. Carter also said he would feel comfortable if you guys voted to have me sign it. So it's your choice, whatever you guys feel like you want to do. Whether it's Carter, whether it's myself, or who's ever in this seat.
Yeah, I think it would be better if it was Carter. And so again, I think it's this motion right here. Upon presentation of the same by the ZBA secretary would be at the end here.
Okay.
Bill,
Yes.
question. So,
Yes.
who oversees the bills that were not being overbilled, or who says, yep, this bill's correct? Like,
So
where does that-
I have a budget and I have $500 for office supplies and $1,500 right now for communications because the price went up of legal ads. But that whole 2,000 or whatever I have in my budget covers all my office supplies, covers the periodicals, the couple periodicals we get, covers legal notices. So anything that I buy for the office. So when I got the headset, so I can talk to you guys and type, that came out of that budget. The only thing that didn't is the computer. That comes out of the town budget. So it's stuff that I would use daily, like a 3-hole punch and a stapler and legal pads.
it's not
pens.
bills from Dan Hill or Graves?
No.
Okay.
Well, the bills, it is. It also processes the bills from Dan Hill, but those go into the legal account. So everything that gets processed bill-wise, so if it's for the 48 legal notices, that comes out of a budget that I have every year. WB Mason bills, that comes out of the budget. And then we have the bills for Graves. Those go into the peer account bill invoicing. So it gets processed, comes out of the peer review that then gets replaced by that applicant. So High Point has their own peer review. And whenever I get a bill like from Graves for $2,000, I process that bill. I email a copy to Peter Hignorani. He sends me a $2,000 check to replenish what was just invoiced. So those are the revolving accounts. It's more so the budgeted ones that I have budgeted for every year.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Welcome.
So I think, though, that isn't exactly what you were asking. And it's my thought as far as what you're asking is who's really watching to make sure they're not necessarily overpaying or
Oh, I see what you're saying.
we're not paying things we shouldn't be paying and that sort of thing. And that's one of the reasons why I specifically don't want Katrina signing. Seems to me that Katrina should be able to see the bills coming in and know that they're okay. But let's have a separation of duties here and have somebody else actually be responsible for signing, considering that we're not in the building and able to do that. So that's why, if we're going to do this, I would much rather have it be the town administrator signing instead of Katrina, because with Katrina signing, then there's only one person. So that was my thinking there.
That's fine.
All right, so that's a motion. I need that motion. It's on the screen. I move to authorize the town administrator to sign the warrant for payment of bills from the account to the ZBA upon presentation of the same by the ZBA secretary.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Bill, I had my hand up. If you mind, may I speak for a minute?
Yes. Let me stop sharing that so I can see everybody. I'm sorry, Bob.
That's
I wasn't
okay.
able to see everybody when I'm sharing the screen. Go ahead.
So I just want to answer a couple of the questions. One is I'm actually Katrina's supervisor. And when we had an accountant, which we don't have right now, we have management reports that get circulated. And in those management reports, it shows us every month of what was paid on the prior month so we can make sure that the bills are coded correctly. And that's where we would catch if there was something that was out of the ordinary. It's kind of a month behind, but that's our check and balance. It's looking at like your home checkbook. So that's what I do for several departments. And I absolutely take a look at, 176. And Katrina and I work together on putting your budget together. So when she said Carter's her supervisor, Carter's really not her supervisor. Her supervisor is really in the building department because that's where this all started. I just wanted to clear that up. That's all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion? Then again, on a roll call vote, Ms. DeRosiers,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans. Mr. Yeomans, you're on mute.
Yes.
Mr. Waller.
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. So that's that. And then the next item of business is probably minutes, and quite frankly, I'm going to table them because I haven't looked at them, and I'd rather not do it now live. So any other items not reasonably anticipated by the chairman 48 hours in advance of the meeting? Anything else we need to talk about at this point?
Bill, I have one question. I brought this up to, if I may.
Yes. Yep. Go ahead.
I brought this up on, we're supposedly having a joint meeting with the planning board on 11/9.
Correct.
And I noticed today on the planning board agenda for 10/26, they show on their agenda a discussion of High Point. Is there a conflict there? Are we still having the meeting on the 9th? That's my question.
Yeah, no, you may or may not be aware, but the planning board opened their hearing with respect to the roads at High Point a few weeks ago.
Right. You went.
I assume that they continued it. Yeah, and I assume that they continued it to the date that you just referred to, next Monday. So that
Okay.
has to happen. And presumably it will get continued again to the 9th. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know, what will transpire Monday. It occurs to me that I don't have that on my calendar. I think I'm probably supposed to be there Monday. But regardless, yes. So it should not be a conflict.
Okay.
The intention is that we will meet with them on the 9th. And, really on the 9th, for those who haven't seen that meeting of the planning board, they're kind of being thrown into the middle of High Point at this point, they have absolutely no history on it, and they're just kind of looking for anything that they can get with respect to information about that project so they can make a proper decision as far as the roads go. Now, we have, some of us have some history with that just through different modifications. Obviously, I'm the only one who was here when that permit was created, but we as a board have more knowledge of that project than the planning board does. So we'll just talk to them, try and help them out in any way we can.
Is Dan Hill going to be at that meeting on the 9th?
I don't think so.
Do you think there's a need for him to be there?
Not really.
Okay.
But I'm saying that kind of cavalierly. There was definitely a question as far as why it was even in front of them, and it was really Jenny Kramer, although she consulted with Dan, who issued the opinion that the road acceptance should go to the planning board. So I don't know if Dan should be there or not at this point. It's something I can bring up. Hopefully I'm going to be there Monday, and we can talk a little bit about what they want to do. Maybe we can bring it up.
Thank you.
But Jenny's position is this is a 40A matter, and that's why it's at the planning board, not a 40B matter. But it's kind of hard to get away from 40B when it's a 40B project. Okay. Anything else anyone want to talk about? Okay, so a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second,
On a roll call vote, Ms. DeRosiers,
yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
Yes.
Mr. Waller.
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. We're done. Good night, everyone.